What's going on, Wolfpack Nation? Again, sorry again for the technical issues we were having there. Again, seems like we were still working out some kinks there with that, but again, felt confident enough to give it a shot tonight, but obviously still not quite ready. But wanted to make sure to jump on to what we know at least, so that way we make sure you have good video, good audio, all that jazz, and we have no issues at all seeing your chats as well, because that was another issue we were having as well. So it didn't seem like we could see anybody's chats coming in. So. Anyway, though, so again, jumping right back in, Greg. So yeah, I mean, I know that one of the biggest issues obviously was obviously in the paint was a struggle. I think Clemson had 44 points in the paint, and we only had 2 points combined from our bigs between Gibson, Ross, and Duanu, and so that's never a recipe for success. But again, I think definitely one of the biggest things for me is really figuring out kind of what kind of the future holds again, because I mean it's not going to get any easier, especially the more that you dive into the ACC schedule. It's just going to get tougher and tougher, and you're going to get more and more teams that have great players down low. So what are your kind of initial thoughts on that thought, Greg?
Well, I mean, yesterday we tried, doubling down in the paint on a few of those things, and they just had kickbacks outside. And Clemson hit a lot of good shots yesterday. I mean, they shot really well from the three line. So you just got to pick your poison, and maybe sometimes just hope that the other team that can't shoot and they can't hit the bright side of a barn. So
yeah,
again, you just you keep plugging away. You keep hoping that you can make some progress, but at the end of the day, like I said, the team didn't quit, and so that's the one thing I guess you got to give Keats some props for is his teams don't quit.
True that. Michael, you got any additional thoughts?
You just got to develop some consistency. I mean, I was saying earlier, the only guy who's been consistent all season is Sebron, and that's great. And he's looking like probably an ACC Player of the Year candidate, but
yeah.
On a team level, that's not going to win you many games in the ACC if you just have one guy who shows up consistently.
No, and again, too, one of my thoughts, too, is that, it's, obviously with us here at Tuffy Talk, first thing we always like to do, obviously there's a couple of things we like talking about all different sports, obviously, but also, too, we always like trying to be kind of the glass half full, because obviously, it's I feel like that's important for us as fans, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, there is so much good going on, so it's not as tough as it really seems, but, specifically, obviously, when you're talking about men's basketball, which obviously is the bread and butter for a lot of state fans, even over football, it's tough. But the one thing which I do want to say, which is as a negative, which I think I'm saying this because I think even Keats would agree with this, because really I think that this is a mistake, which I feel that he would even admit to, which is that it was definitely a mistake, unfortunately, not going after an experienced big player during the offseason. And the reason why I say that, I mean, because I'm saying that obviously the nightmare scenario happened. Obviously Manny Bates got injured first game of the year. But again, it's definitely something which, is plaguing us right now. I think that Duanu actually is a good player. I think that he's going to be a good player for us in the future. I just think that basically he's getting thrown into the coals right now and saying, go, dance, or, swim, like do something for him. It's like, listen, he's just trying to develop right now. He's not necessarily, I mean, he's definitely not ready as a starter, but again, he's done a good enough job. But again, the one thing which I do want to say though, too, is that when you have a team that is so bland down low scoring the ball, basically like we have nothing, post up or anything that can score the ball, it makes it very tough for guys like Cam Hayes, DeQuavian Smith, and Sebron, because I mean every team's like, hey, listen, we won't even worry about the down low. All we're going to worry about is just making sure you don't get to the basket and taking out three. And I mean that's really the recipe for success for us right now. So that's why, like, for me, it's really tough to really be so critical of guys like Baby T, guys like Cam Hayes, who obviously, have gone up and down and definitely have had, have been in a little bit of a slump, but, it's, it doesn't help. Let's put it that way. The down low players are not helping the situation.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
When you don't, like when opposing teams don't, I mean, they really haven't all season. They don't have to, double or help in the post. and then they can just stay on the shooters who are outside. That makes it a whole lot tougher.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Dewanu kind of reminds me of a Manny Bates, where he was very raw, and it took him a couple years to get his offensive game. He shows up defensively pretty well. He can do a little bit better boxing out and protecting the rim. He's not a shot blocker yet, like Manny is, but I mean, give him a year or two, and like you said, we could have something there. But it doesn't help us today. So
No.
We're gonna have problems like against the Syracuse team where they're gonna just play zone all night, and you got to be able to shoot, and with no inside outside game, that makes it very difficult, and that's the one thing we're lacking right now.
Yeah. Well, and again too, so that's why, I mean, and there's no doubt that obviously criticism of Keats is acceptable. I mean, at the end of the day, he's getting paid a lot of money to get critiqued on hard. And I mean, again, and because I say this as well, and I said this on Twitter, that at the end of the day, if fans aren't critical of the coach, if we're not winning, then I'm worried, honestly, because it's like, because I mean, it shows that we want to win, but I just basically want to make sure we're doing it the right way. I was getting at yesterday where I was saying we need to support this team, and State Fans Nation came back and was like, well, what do you mean not support? I mean, doesn't every fan support their team? And I'm like, well, I can tell you from personal experience that what I don't want is I don't want fans to be like, well, we're not winning. Okay, I'm going to watch baseball. I mean, I'm going to watch women's basketball. Like, I'm going to throw in towel. Like if some like fan gives me crap about men's basketball, it's like I don't watch them. It's just like I'm talking about baseball. Because again, at the end of the day, these guys are playing hard, and because we've seen teams like for example, Mark Godfrey's last year. One of the biggest issues I had about that team was just they just didn't play with any pride. They didn't play for the name on the front. They played for the name on the back. They didn't play hard. They didn't. I mean, like, again, you got blown out, 100 and something to 50 something against Carolina. Like if you play hard, you don't lose by 50 points. No matter how good that team is, no matter how bad your team is, it doesn't happen. So as long as you're seeing that, as long as you're seeing the effort, and the will to win from these guys, then the least we can do is bring it right back to them, and support them. Because then, hey, we saw against Virginia Tech, they pulled out a big win. They played hard and they pulled out a big win for us. So, what's to say they can't do it again? At the day we got to look long term here. So, but anyway, so that I just want to kind of preface that a little bit, obviously kind of bouncing off of that, tweet back and forth a little bit there. But, but again, I do want to say once again that I do not in any way say that, fans cannot critique, these, the players or the coaching staff. It's natural, it's part of it, it's part of being a part of a Division I basketball program.
And especially if you're, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say that the good thing is at least like the X's and O's wise, that stuff is fixable. Like what you were saying, playing hard and playing with effort and hustling, and like that's something usually a team has or it doesn't. It doesn't, like, you can't really get that. That's so. At least it seems like the issues we've seen are fixable.
Yeah. Well, and that the one thing like you were touching on, Leighton, is like you always hear about the coach losing the locker room, right? Or they're not playing hard. And I don't think, Keats doesn't have that. Like, I think everyone respects him. Yeah. Everyone's playing hard. Even with the team struggling, there wasn't any really boos yesterday at PNC. With that. So yes, the fans are frustrated and they want to see wins, but they also see effort. And I think, if you have the effort, the results will come. The ball, pardon the pun, but the ball's got to bounce your way some point, right? So if you're in these games and if you're close enough, you're going to pull one or, you're going to pull some of these out. The law of averages just says that. So,
Yeah. And again, because it really just does come down to that at the end of the day, like looking at a guy like Cam Hayes, because I feel like if there's one player that I maybe look at the coaching staff saying, hey, I think you need to be more involved, because like Baby T and all that, okay, he's young, he's going to develop, he's going to figure that out. Sebron's doing his thing. Dewanu eventually is going to take time. You're not going to switch Dewanu this year to all of a sudden being a 12 points a game player. It's not going to happen this year. But Cam Hayes is a guy that I look at and I'm like, I think that he's a guy that the coaching staff needs to jump in on and help figure out, because he is a guy that can be a 12 to 13 point a game player. He can get, 5-7 assists a game. Like, he can be a very productive player for us. Again, this is his second year, so it's not that he's a true freshman. He's had a year to really experience and grow in the ACC a little bit here. But like 2008 BB ball gamer said, after this year, I think Cam Hayes will transfer like Shaquille Moore because of Dillingham coming in. Well, the one thing which I'll say that is Dillingham doesn't come until 2023. So, so we got another year here before Dillingham comes in. But, so I mean, Greg, would you kind of agree with that about Cam?
Yeah, I mean, you were definitely hoping Cam would take a step forward.
He needed to.
He showed flashes last year. We're like, okay, this is someone that, like you said, we can count 10 to 15 points, 5 to 6 assists, couple rebounds a game, and he's just not doing that. His shooting hasn't progressed. Like there's just, and I don't know if it's just a confidence thing or just not getting enough minutes where he gets into the flow of the game. I'm not sure what it is, but it's just not there for whatever reason. So I think that's definitely a frustrating thing, especially for the fans, because everyone is so high on Cam. He came in with a lot of accolades.
Yeah, he was the highest rated recruit in his class, so he was like he was going to be Keats' point guard, and he really hasn't really turned out to what I think he could be. I do think it is confidence. He's just he's had a couple good games shooting, but again, just like as a distributor and as a true point guard, he hasn't really put it all together.
No. And Allstate Boy says, I think the pressure is really getting to Hayes. I mean, who knows? I mean, then again, that's the one thing which I always kind of say to fans too, is we don't know what's going on in the locker room. We don't know what these guys are dealing with. We don't know what is going on during practices. Like, we don't know. So what's going on with Hayes? Not sure. But again, I think Hayes is the guy that all of us can say he has the potential, and he showed enough potential last season to where he should be playing better right now than he is.
Right.
Consistently. Yeah. Again, I mean, every player has his off game, which is completely understandable. But again, it's been a couple of games now where it's like, where's Cam? And he really, this year overall, he hasn't really, popped off the screen necessarily either. So, and again, the one thing too is there's no doubt that we could talk about some players that are on this team this year and be like, I don't know if they like for example, like as much as I love this guy, Jalen Gibson is a guy that, I think Michael's chuckle kind of gets at is that, at the end of the day, we're not here to talk negative, but I'm not sure if he's
just not an ACC caliber player.
It just doesn't seem like now again, not yet. But again, it seems like he's got a lot of go if he wants to with us, because especially to hopefully next year, hopefully we wouldn't have to rely on like a Jalen Gibson to play many minutes. Hopefully Keats will bring some guys in or whatever it may be, so we don't have to rely on Gibson. But even like a Casey Morsell as well. Like Greg. My issue with Morsell is that he, like, especially at the beginning of the season, he showed signs of excitement for sure. But it seems like, again, recently it has just not been overly productive, and especially for a guy who came from UVA, was coached, by Tony Bennett, great basketball head coach. It's, do you think that it's just a rut for him right now? Or do you think that he needs more time to develop? What's your kind of thoughts on Morsell?
Well, I mean, he was dealing with that injury for a little while.
Right.
He missed a few games. I think he missed 3 or 4 games right before ACC play. So maybe he's just starting to get into the flow. It could be a conditioning thing. It could be a couple different things that he's dealing with. He definitely showed some signs yesterday. Hit some shots. Again, and I think some of it too is, someone posted in the chat, I think it was Old State Boy, about the injuries. When you have injuries early in the season, it's hard to get your rotation set, figuring out, who's going to play in what situations, and then just figuring out like who can Keats trust? We saw the other night at the end of the game where Helms threw the ball away against FSU. Like, those are things that, early part of the season, those are things that you really want to work on against lesser competition. Well, we struggled in those situations. So I still think some of this is definitely a work in progress. And so I think Keats is just trying to figure it out on the go. And unfortunately, he's figuring it out in game situations and not necessarily in practice where, the chips don't count as much.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, because, one positive thing though as well, and one person actually really stood out to me was Thomas Allen. Overall had a productive game yesterday, scoring
He's had a couple
10
good games.
points. Yeah. No, I mean, he started to really, not necessarily like break the record books per se, but, he's been a guy that, has been productive for us, and I mean, he's again scoring 10 points in 27 minutes, shooting 4 for 9, 3 rebounds and 1 assist. I mean, again, it's, he's a guy that I don't necessarily see being much more than really just kind of more of a filler piece. If we need a shot here, if we need a shot there, whatever it may be, he can be that guy for us. But again, he's a good piece to have right now, especially where we're really struggling to find. Like, I mean, again, yesterday, I mean, besides Sebron and Allen, I mean, the next guy was really Helms, but he only had 8 points. So I mean, it's again, it's we still have, again, a lot of season left for sure, but it's definitely a worry for me down low that what we saw on Saturday or saw yesterday, with down low is just going to continue to be taken advantage of. And there's not really much that we can do to stop it really. So, because again, that really comes down to personnel. They like, a guy like EB, like if you have like Armando Baycott, posting you up, Baycott's gonna be the, he's gonna win that battle, most of the time. And just unfortunately, it's just Baycott's very experienced. He's a much bigger guy, and again, Duanu's still developing. It's kind of like, go ahead.
Baycott had 29 points and 21 rebounds yesterday versus
a heck of a game.
That's what I'm saying. If Manny's in there, that doesn't happen. I mean, it just doesn't happen. No. Manny's probably blocking 4 or 5 of those shots. Maybe he backs off, off of Manny. Like, it's Manny is a big. I mean, I'm not saying Manny is like the savior of this team, but you need an enforcer around the rim, and we just don't have that. Like I said, if he wasn't making shots, he was kicking them out. And like I said, they hit some big threes when we had again another cold stretch in the second half where we just dig ourselves in just too big of a hole, and we just don't. We run out of time. Like, if you give us another 5 more minutes in the game, we probably get there. But unfortunately, they only play 40 minutes. So that's true. That's true. So anyway, but again, so obviously we got the Louisville game here coming up at 9 p.m. on Wednesday. We're actually going to be doing a watch party for that, and it's also going to be our 1-year anniversary of Tuffy Talk as well. Actually, a year from Wednesday, January 12th, we actually released our first episode. So we're going to be doing a lot of giveaways. That'll be announced tomorrow, the details. But make sure to tune in. We'll go live, probably around 8:30 or so, give or take. So make sure to keep on following us. Make sure to tune in so you don't miss out on that awesome watch party. That'll be a lot of fun. And hey, I always say that, we always like to say, we're going to get through it together. At the end of the day, we always say, hey, come hang out with us, watch it, watch it with us, react to it with us. And, Misery loves company.
Together. Misery loves company. Exactly. So, and hey, it'll be a great opportunity, against a good Louisville team, I mean, who hasn't been dominant, but I mean, they've been solid. So, hey, it's a great opportunity for us in a tough environment. Again, I really would say that honestly, I've been to Louisville, the KFC Yum Center, I think is what it's called. KFC Yum Center. Yep. And it's a tough environment to be in college basketball. That is for sure. It is a beautiful arena. I'll give it to them. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's their bread and butter is basketball. So it's not really a surprise per se, but it's a heck of an environment for sure. So if any State fans listening haven't been there, I definitely highly recommend. If you ever want to go, go to Louisville, hit some of the Bourbon Trail stops and go check out an awesome basketball arena against a great team. That's the way to do it. So that's the way to do it. So wanted to jump over here to kind of women's basketball. There's obviously kind of a lot of different topics
Yeah.
we wanted to talk about here. So women's basketball, obviously, very impressive today. Well, okay, I wouldn't say very impressive because I mean it was
closer than the
close.
score.
It was
closer
closer
than the
than
score.
it was. Yeah, so 76-64. But the reason why I say kind of go to the word impressive is because I mean, there's no doubt that Miami is a good team. Definitely watching that game. I mean, the thing that stood out to me is, wow. I mean, Miami's a good team. I mean, they're 7-5, but that game today didn't look like a 7-5 team. I mean, they
Yeah.
looked like a good
No.
team. So,
Well, 35 also probably had the game of her life today too. I mean, she had the inside outside game. I think she'd only hit like they said like 2 3-pointers all season. I think she hit like 4 or 5. So,
Oh, wow.
she had a game. But I mean, at the end of the day, State prevailed. This was the closest ACC game they played all year, and they won by what, 14? I think it was 14. So
we won by 12. Mm-hmm.
12.
Yep,
Okay, yeah, I know they had. I know they had a late shot at the end of that.
Yeah, 76-64.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, because the one thing too, which I love is again, it seems like everybody's starting to really get involved. Everybody's starting to be solid. Because again, when you have many weapons as you have, you're not necessarily probably gonna have a game where somebody's gonna have 25, 30 points necessarily. You're probably gonna have a lot of people in double digits. Which is great. That's a good. I think that's where Westmore wants to be. Because
Right.
it's always great to have so many weapons because especially in the game of basketball where every game you're going to have a couple players that are feeling really good. You got to have a couple players that aren't really able to find the basket. And so when you have 8, 9 options, that are experienced, that are really talented, that your chances are really good that you can find 5 of those players that are having a good game. So because I can't say enough to honestly. I can't say enough. First of all, about Alyssa Kanane. I mean, there's no doubt that she's going to be the ACC Player of the Year. There's no doubt about it. But the one thing I want to say too is Camille Hobby. Like for some reason, I just love that girl just because of the fact. I mean, for being the backup center, she is so talented. I mean,
Yeah.
and the fact that she's still here is, I mean, it's awesome to me because I mean, she could easily go to many other schools and be the starting center this year. But I mean, my guess more likely is that she's waiting until next year after Kunane leaves, and then between her and the other 5-star center that we have sitting on the bench, the two of them will split time. But yeah, it's just crazy this team's depth. I can't get over it every single time I watch them.
She had 9 points in 11 minutes. Like that's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
we
pretty
call that
productive.
efficient. Yeah. Well, I mean, when you have Diamond coming off the bench as your 6th player, and she was
That's crazy
like
too.
first team Big Ten all last year, it's like that's a what do they call that? Something riches. What is that?
Champagne problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, champagne problems.
Champagne
But
too many people.
Too many. Yeah. Well, and Leighton, to your point, teams have to choose what they want to do. Do they want to double down on Kunane, and then okay, now you have the best shooting 3-point team in the ACC, and I think they're top 5 in the country. I think they might even be top 3. So you have to pick your poison, and like you said, any given night, any 5, 6 or 7 could go off.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, it's again, it's a great problem to have. There's no doubt, and everybody's staying healthy, which is great. But because I would even say as well that I thought I saw a graphic after not the Miami game, but the last game where they were talking about like the best point guards in the ACC, and they had Diamond and Reina Perez on there.
Yeah.
And I feel like Reina is. I mean, I still honestly feel like Reina doesn't get the credit that she deserves, because I mean, again, she really is she's a baller, but she's also she's such a trustworthy player. She's
just
somebody
a steady hand.
She is, and she's somebody you can always count on, and she's somebody that can run the offense. That whenever the players look back, that I feel like they feel calm and confident that they see Reina Perez sitting back there with the basketball. So. And that's really going to help us, because I know that obviously, you don't want to look ahead, but next week, I think it's Thursday, we play Louisville at home, which is going to be I mean,
It'll
one of
be a
the
big one.
biggest games in a long time at Reynolds Coliseum, because I mean, at that time, Louisville will still probably be number 3 or so, and we'll be probably 4 or 5, something like that, give or take. So, I mean, you got a top
Mhm.
5 matchup in Reynolds Coliseum. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a packed house, no doubt about it. But also too want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about baseball. So obviously the news came out earlier this week about the new projected upgrades, renovations to the Doak Field, which they said will not begin until after this 2022
Yeah.
season. The first phase won't begin. But I mean, so Michael, I hand off to you first. So what were your initial thoughts when you saw those upgrades announced?
Um, that's awesome. That's well overdue.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for Avon and Coach Hart and obviously all the players. And it looks like they're going to be some great upgrades to the not only just the stadium itself, but also the player facilities, the locker rooms, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Greg.
It's gonna. I mean, I'm gonna start off and say it's gonna be a great recruiting tool. I mean, if Avon's already pulling the type of talent he's pulling with the current facilities, it's only gonna make it that much better. Like Michael said, I think the big thing is like the player amenities, right? Because the players want to feel good, right? So the new lounges that they're building, and then the new clubhouse that they're building out for them. So I think that's going to be fantastic. I've seen mentioned on Twitter and other places that people are pretty happy with what they've seen so far. As long as the thing ends up as the rendered art does, right? So that's the key. Two things. One, do they get the money that they want to commit to the project, which is $15 million, and then does it really look like what they say it's going to look like? And so I guess that'll the proof will be in the pudding.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, and again, then day two, and then Old Stave Boy went ahead and said, the grill/smokers was a surprise for unique fan experience.
I'm getting on the waiting list for that one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and because my original thought when I saw that was, I was like, are they not worried about like foul balls like coming in, like smoking one of those grills? Like that was kind of my original thought.
It's just cow, right? It's leather. We could probably cook that and make it taste decent. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just seems like there's so many safety hazard measures that go into that stuff. Because what if you burn yourself on the grill? Like is that a liability for Doak? I mean,
I'm sure there'll be paperwork that you gotta. I'm sure there'll be paperwork you gotta fill out.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. But I think every fan would gladly sign that piece of paper to have that, because that was awesome to have a tent and a grill. Sitting basically right down the first baseline.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It'll be interesting to see how that works out too, right? Like, do you have to buy their food and put it on your grill? Are you allowed to bring your own? Like, it's gonna be interesting to see how all that plays out.
I'm sure more than likely you have to buy their food. I'm sure, which again, I mean that's not really a surprise, because obviously
they got revenue.
They need revenue as well. They need to make some money off of it. So gotta get ready for Doak Field 3.0. So
that's right.
Yeah. And they said if they raise more than 15 million, they've got stuff that they can add on that was in the plans. So
I'm hoping they get to Doak 4.0, 5.0. Like let's build this thing up. Let's make it the best stadium not only in the ACC, but let's go for the country. I mean, I'm really excited that they're continuing off the success of the College World Series run from last year. So that's good to see that they want to continue that momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and definitely, I think there's two things which obviously I'm still looking for that I would definitely love to see, which is definitely eventually either like a second tier, second level again, just kind of expand or outfield seating. I want to expand the capacity of people that could be there, and obviously for a full overhang, or some kind of shade. Old State Boy says for a full overhang it will cost an extra $7 million. So again, that's probably why it's not in the budget for Doak Field 2.0. But again, it's all a wish list. Then this isn't the end of it. It's not like they're renovating this and then like Doak Field's going to be that way forever. Like, no, I mean, guaranteed that if things continue the way they do and we continue to be as successful as we are, then there's no doubt that it's only going to be a matter of time before they add on overhangs or shade, before they add new capacity. And because especially too, like when we're hosting super regionals and stuff, and if they're selling out of tickets, like within minutes and stuff like that, it's like, hey guys, if we add more seats, we can make more money. Like, we
You
need to
can
add
sell
more
more
seats to this
tickets. Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
So, but I'm honestly just glad. It looks like the metal bleachers are gone, which is definitely something which I'm kind of happy with, because I definitely remember times of going to regionals games or something like that, and those bleachers get hot. So
Yeah.
so glad I don't have to deal with that. But it looks beautiful though. Definitely looking forward, and because I'm interested too what this new playing surface is going to look like too. Like I saw
Yeah.
that in the plans too.
Yeah. Most. I mean, I think it was going to be synthetic again, right? Is that what I saw? Did I see it was going to be?
I think so, but again,
Yeah.
it's yeah. Go ahead.
They didn't really go into it. They did. I think they just said new playing surface, but I
Yeah.
would be willing. I'd be willing to bet that it's going to probably be a synthetic, as most schools are doing that nowadays, just because it's cheaper to maintain.
Mhm.
Which I don't know. I'm a traditional kind of guy, so I'm hoping it stays grass, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Wait and see. Yeah, again, we'll see. And I think too, you could do so much more with the natural grass, too, when it comes to a baseball field in terms of designs, things like that. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Again, fingers crossed. Again, I'm sure that'll be an interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. So, all right. So now, kind of changing, swapping over here to wrestling. So I actually got somebody who messaged me today saying, "Hey, are you gonna talk about men's wrestling's big win over Princeton Day?" And I'm like, "Of course. Wouldn't dream of not talking
Yeah.
about it. I mean, because so
Dominated
basically,
them.
dominated. Yeah. So basically, for those who don't know, so NC State Wrestling, who's number 5 in the country, went to Princeton today. Who's as a team was put as the number 9 team in the country, and has had a couple
I,
of wrestlers who are actually top 10 in the country. So a good matchup for sure. And I mean, we pretty much, almost swept the floor with them. And
Yeah.
and really, if it wasn't for one fluke, opportunity that Isaac Trumbull gave Princeton, to really take advantage for a pin, then we probably would have won. I think the final score was like
Clean
32 to
sweep.
32-9 or 29-9, something like that. So
yeah,
we
it was
won
either
by way
the 9
more.
or 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I mean, again, just another great matchup. And again, I definitely do guys say that once again, that if any state fan who's listening or is watching or whatever right now has not gone all in on this wrestling team this year, I highly, highly suggest you jump on that train as soon as possible, because we got a huge match coming up here, January 21st. I think it's a 7 p.m. match start time against Virginia Tech, who I think right now is number 9 or 10 in the country.
Mm. Yep,
And
they're good.
again, that'll pretty much probably decide who wins the regular season ACC title. So again, a huge, huge match coming up there with multiple big matches there. So go ahead, Greg.
Oh, so it's so big. They actually bring in the ACC ESPN guy. He's actually going to be in house to call it. They're not even doing it remotely, which they've done for pretty much all their broadcasts this year. So that just gives you
Nice.
Rock. I think Rock Harrison, I think his name is. I saw on Twitter
Okay.
he posted today.
Okay.
So that just tells you that it's going to be a big environment. So I think they want to be a part of that experience. So.
Now, Greg, how many wrestling matches have you been to, if you don't mind me asking?
So I've never been to
Really?
any.
Okay.
Again, it's just there's just not living in the area. It's really hard. You kind of pick your poison and figure out where you want to go. And with my limited time, it just sometimes the schedules just don't align for me. So
Yeah.
I talked to I messaged Chuck Coates and I was like, I got to get to a game or a meet. See, that's how much I don't even know about it. Right? It's a
Yeah.
meet, not a game.
Yeah.
But I mean, I anything that's just electric and like the crowd is crazy and it's pumped and like I want to be a part of it. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, eventually I'll get to one of them.
Yeah. And Michael, do we got to drag you to one too? Or have you been to one before?
No, I haven't been to one either. So
Maybe
we need
maybe we need to figure that out. Yeah, maybe we need to.
Yeah,
do
we need to
Yeah.
get you guys to one, dude. I mean, it's
Yeah.
and Daniel Neal says NC State home wrestling matches are legit. Yeah, I mean, and we've said it before on, I think it was a live stream, then an interview with Machiavello and Coach Hall as well.
Mhm.
That again, in any state fan who loves sports, it's an environment, especially wrestling, because again, wrestling is one of those things that it kind of reminds me a lot of, or for the reasons why people love football, because football, it's a measure of will. It's a lot of technique, but it's also a measure of man versus man. Who wants it more. And wrestling is exactly that. At the end of the day, like
Similar,
it's
yeah.
a lot of technique. It is a ton of technique, but it is also a lot of willpower. Who wants it more? Because there's so many guys on these teams are on this team. Like, for example, the Hadley brothers, who I mean, to me, are two of the most exciting wrestlers I've ever seen with my eyes, besides
Yeah.
maybe the Gwiz. But
Yeah.
I mean, they just wrestle with like like the phrase, like without thought of personal safety, like just like
Yeah.
all hell breaks loose, like that is how they wrestle. They just like go balls to the wall, and it is so
And
exciting, crazy to watch. And because
and
there's a lot of guys. Go ahead.
they're probably one of our best teams at NC State too. I mean, they're back to back ACC champions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I
So,
like the mano a mano. Like in football, you got people that'll double team you or they'll do stunts and all of that. Like no, it's just like you said.
there's
It's
no help. It's you versus
one-on-one.
them.
Yeah.
one on one. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yep.
Sink or swim,
Yep.
flight or fight. So it's just like, okay, let's do it. Like you and me in the ring.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I see in the comments as well, Old State Boy and Daniel Neal are talking about which match you're going to. Yeah, definitely, boy. Make sure to check it out. And again, I think we'll plan to be at every ACC match this year. So if you guys go, or if anybody goes, make sure to reach out to us. We'd love to see you guys all there. And Russell, too, I also see a comment too about the NC State or football offensive line. We'll touch base on that here in a little bit. But want to kind of finish up though about wrestling, because there's a couple of things that really stand out to me. First of all, Ed Scott, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be our next stud for the next couple of years here at NC State. He is absolutely impressive, to say the least. So impressive. I mean, over his last two matches, first of all, against number 1 Iowa, he pinned his opponent, and then for this match, he beat number 5 ranked wrestler in the 157 pound weight class. I mean, this guy is so super impressive. And Daniel O'Neill says, "Tuffy Talk
I like
pregame
that.
show live in person." I'm
Live
I'm
location.
I'm a fan of it. It's
Mhm.
definitely something we've talked about, but again, there's so much that goes into it when it comes to recording
Goes
on
into
NC
live
State's
shows.
campus.
Yeah.
But again, hey, we'll definitely work to that, and it's definitely in the plans for future. So anyway, but yeah, so Ed Scott is super impressive, and also to Ryan Jack as well, Kevin Jack's younger brother. He has been super impressive as well. So again, it's just it's just like women's basketball for me, kind of the same topic, where it's just like, dude, this team is just so deep from top to bottom. Every single weight class is just so polished and so so competitive in their weight class. Like there's really not really a weight class this year where it's like, okay, let's hope we don't get pinned, or like, okay,
Right.
let's hope we don't get a technical fall. It's like, hey, every single weight class, we got somebody that can compete with pretty much every single wrestler in the country. So, which is
And
not something that not a lot of teams can say. Go ahead, Greg.
yeah, no, I say with my limited knowledge, obviously. So if I'm wrong, then please someone correct me. But from what I've read, it's like this team has like Pop just has a hard time like filling out his roster because there's so many
That's what we said.
like
Yeah.
there's just multiple guys at each weight class, and I don't understand it all, but I guess you can only have so many wrestlers wrestle on a given night. Like, so like I said, forgive my ignorance, but man, that's an awesome thing to even have. Like, just like, okay, you're in tonight. Like, I just
Yeah.
can't even
Doesn't matter.
imagine. Yeah, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not scared. Like who wants to go? Who wants to
No.
go against this guy? Raise your hand.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's so definitely make sure again, January 21st, again against Virginia Tech coming to town, who again should be a top 10 team by the time we see, or when we see them. They are now, but they should still continue to be, assuming they don't have any crazy setback until then. But again, more likely we'll decide the AC regular season championship. So make sure, if you haven't already, to go check out NC State Wrestling. Their link is there to buy tickets, so make sure to go check them out. They're all general admission. And I think they're all like, $7 a ticket or something like that. So it's not like it's crazy expensive. And
Yeah.
again, it is going to be the match of the year for sure when it comes to wrestling. So make sure to do not miss out on that match. Because they
So I got
definitely
a
need us.
question.
They definitely need support. Go for it, Greg. What you
So
got?
I got a question. So how does their general admission work? Do you get like a seat number, or you just first come first serve? You
Yep.
just find a seat when you get there.
First come, first serve. When you get there, you get your
Gotcha.
seat.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So I didn't know
Yep.
that. So hopefully, if anyone else didn't know that, you're like, hey, if you get a ticket, show up early, right? You want the best
Yeah.
seats in the house.
We're going to be there early, and definitely. I know like Intermat, who's basically like the collegiate wrestling website. They're going to be there following the match, which isn't really much of a surprise. But again, it's going to be big. It's going to be fun, and I know typically too, like we saw it a couple of times over the last couple of years, where they'll actually, because typically they'll have the mat like directly on the basketball floor, but and sometimes they've actually brought in like a stage and actually like basically raise the mat up. And so I'll be interested to see, if they do that. Now, I think the one reason why they don't typically do that is because it pretty much limits like any of the like ground level seating. Pretty much is useless because basically you're like eye level to like the mat, so it's not really much of a benefit. So, but again, we'll see what happens. So again, hopefully, again it'll no issues, but again it's gonna be crazy. So definitely look forward to that. So now, so I think we'll kind of, since Russell had that one question, we'll talk a little bit here about football here first. So basically, Russell's comment was talking about: is there any concern for our O line next year? Lots of studs coming back, but not many big names for O line. Thoughts? Yeah, first of all, the first thing I want to say is, obviously Doran's not done. I think, he got a big, a wide receiver commit, who from Maryland, who is a former 4-star wide receiver. But again, I know he's still looking at getting some help probably for running back, and also getting some help at offensive line probably as well. So I wouldn't necessarily go ahead.
Devin Carter's coming back too. I don't think that happened this week.
Yep, they did. So that was huge. Yeah, yesterday or Friday, something like that.
Friday or yesterday, yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
So that was a huge announcement as well. So definitely exciting about that. So I wouldn't necessarily worry too much yet. At the end of the day, I know that I think like we're still looking at like Christian Beal-Smith, who's from Wake Forest, and also we're looking at like Louisville running back as well. But I'm sure that for that in that exact same point, he has his eyes on some offensive line transfers out there as well. Yeah. Again, there's thousands of transfers this year in the transfer portal. So there are not a limit. There's not a lack of options. Let's put it that way. There's not a lack of options. So, because I want to get your opinion on that too, Greg. Because I think we've talked about that here with Making and Michael as well. But the transfer portal thing, it's again, I feel like it's a double-edged sword, just like the NIL is a double-edged sword. But like the transfer portal as well, it's because you might run into issues where, well, first of all, where it's a lot easier now that you can basically just transfer and start playing the next year, saying, hey, all right, I'm not really liking how things are right here right now, so let me get out of here and let me go somewhere else. But also too, on the other side of that as well, is that players need to keep in mind is that there's thousands of players in the portal. So what if you go into the portal and there goes Michael's background.
Oh no,
my background.
And so what if you get in the portal and nobody's really interested, which is a definite possibility, or maybe the people aren't as interested as you thought they would be, something like that, and then now you have to basically live with that decision, and basically figure out what to do next. So it's, it adds a lot of interesting, situations, into college football now.
Yeah, so I read something the other day. It's like the group of 5 is almost becoming a minor league for the Power 5, right? Yeah. So like these are kids that are getting like they maybe didn't get offers right out of high school, but obviously they've got talent, so they'll go show off for a couple of years. You look at we kind of did that with Townsend, right? Granted, that's one level down, but it's not uncommon to see these bigger schools poaching these smaller schools talent. So for every big guy, from a Power 5, that transfers, a lot of those kids go to group of 5 schools or even drop down a level. So it definitely works both ways. And again, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So it's a chance that you have to, and the coach is the same way. taking a chance on these kids just because they were successful at one school doesn't mean that's going to translate to your league.
Sure.
And we see that with basketball as well. I mean, we've had, people that we thought were going to be studs coming in, and it just doesn't work out for whatever reason.
Which happens. Yeah.
But yeah, I like the ability for these kids to move around, especially when you have situations where like they sign up for one coach and the coach gets fired, and then they're just stuck playing there for a coach that probably doesn't even want them. So I do like it. There definitely needs to be they definitely need to set some guidelines and rules. I think it's still a mess. And then the COVID year really screwed all that up, right? So you got kids coming out of high school that just can't find a school to go play at. So they're having to go to JUCO route and all of that. So it's going to be like this for a couple of years until this gets figured out.
Yeah, I mean, because pretty much my thoughts on it as well is like, it's great. I think it's great for the kids that they have the ability to do more of what they want to do between the NIL and the transfer portal. But the one thing on the backside of it as well is I'm sure you're going to start seeing some of these stories of like, these players like, that, because again, at the end of the day, these are kids, these are 18 to 23-year-old kids, give or take 24-year-old kids. So they are still kids, who make mistakes. And, unfortunately, making one decision, whether it's, deciding to transfer or whether it's to sign this NIL deal or whatever it is, it could be a life-changing decision. It could be, and so it's a lot to put all that pressure on the kid, but at the end of the day, it's their decision, so but yeah, it's kind of getting more into that necessarily not really amateur football anymore. It's kind of becoming a little bit more professional per se, where now you're kind of held to a higher standard because you are representing brands or you are making decisions that can potentially change your entire career and your entire life. If you decide to transfer or stay or whatever it may be, like a guy like Jordan Houston not Jordan Houston, Trent Penix. Like he's a guy that I think should I honestly was surprised after 2019 that he stayed. Or 2020 that he stayed. I easily saw him going somewhere where he probably got more time because he wasn't really getting used that much. But then all of a sudden, last year, but mainly this year, it's like, whoa, like this guy, is going to not only is impressive to State fans, it's going to be big for us. But I wouldn't necessarily say that like guys at the next level are looking at Trent going, dang, that guy's pretty athletic. He's a heck of a Swiss Army knife there. That definitely could be useful. Possibly to some NFL teams in the future. So that was probably a big gamble, but it maybe it paid off.
Yeah, like Greg was saying, just because the players can transfer anywhere they want to, that it's still a risk for them. They just may not fit for whatever reason at the new school. So,
right.
Well, I think they should have that freedom, just like coaches do.
Right.
Hey, Leighton, go back to your Trent Penix comment. I think some of that maybe is with the coaching staff too, right? Because Doran and the coaching staff have been able to find kids and move them around to different positions and find success, right? So you have the Jacoby Myers, Garrett Bradbury came in as a tight end and they converted him to center. And Naeem moving him around, and Jalen Samuels, he was here moving him around. So I think that not only is about the coaching staff, but it's the character of the kids that we're bringing in, that they're willing to listen to coaches, be coached up, and say, hey, we don't have a spot here, but we can move you here, and we think you'll be very successful. And we've seen kids go on to the NFL. Every single one that I just named were kids that came in, moved around, and then got drafted to the NFL. So we definitely have a track history there.
Yeah, absolutely. And also too, so while we're talking to you, Greg, so Russell asked, how are you handling your new fame? Have you signed any autographs yet? I've seen on social media of kids getting their pics made with you. Great stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. Every time we're out at a state event, whether it's the one we came out for the team coming home from the Holiday Bowl or the basketball games, I've had people come up to me. At the Carolina women's game, state women's Carolina game, I had one of the basketball managers come up and said, "Hey, man, I really want to get a picture with you. You're famous. You're a legend." And he said it was an honor to meet me. And I'm like, whoa.
Honor.
I'm just a dumb guy that broke his leg. But it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun. I've told the story probably I don't know, 50 times to people that just want to know. And so,
Yep.
yeah, Russell, it's been funny. It's been really funny.
Yep.
So I'm having fun with
Yep.
it. It won't always be there. I think we talked on the podcast. I'll always be a footnote to that Carolina NC State football game. So yeah,
More like a leg note.
Which
yeah,
a
like
leg note.
yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh my God.
Look at you, Michael. Look
bad.
at you,
That's
brother.
so bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which by the way too. So we will. So I do apologize as well for the delay in getting part 2 of Greg's interview out. We ran into some audio issues which we had to get resolved, but we'll have that second part out tomorrow. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. And don't miss out on that. But yeah, so because one thing is too as well is that I know here we got a couple of sports here who are going to be starting up here soon, like softball. I think that has shown some definite positivity here. With I think they signed like a top 5, top 10
Yeah.
recruiting class
They had a good
in
class.
in
Yeah.
softball, which is awesome. So definitely hats off to Coach Swift, Patrick Swift on that. I think that's going to be a huge game changer as well. And then we should be getting into tennis season as well, which I know that I think women's tennis start off preseason ranked to numbered top 10 team in the country.
I
So
think I saw 8.
8, yep. So I was like, is it 8 or 9? So I'll just say top 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is still super impressive. So
Definitely.
it's beggars can't be choosers. So that'll be big. And then golf as well, I think should be going all along here as well. I know there was a whole debacle last year with the NCAA golf. I think men's golf actually made it to the finals for the first time, if I'm not mistaken, in program history last year. So so definitely looking to build off of that. But definitely the big ones, which I want to kind of highlight, obviously, is first of all, softball is one of those that, if I had to pick one sport that I want to kind of, because there's a couple, like volleyball and softball are 2 sports that come to mind. That if you had to ask me, which sport would you like there to be more NC State support for, those would be the 2. But since volleyball's season's over, I want to talk a little about softball because I really do believe a lot in Coach Jennifer Patrick Swift. I think she is a great coach. I think that she's young enough that obviously she does a great job connecting with these players, but also too, again, I think that with this recruiting class, because again, it makes a lot of sense when a new coach comes on that there's a lot of hype. So it's not really a shocker, like if a coach comes on and like you have a top 5, top 10 recruiting class. So, okay, well that makes sense because it's a lot of hype. But Coach Patrick Swift is in her, I think, 3rd or 4th year, and she's able to sign a top 10 recruiting class, which again which proves it's not hype. It's they bought into a vision here and they see what we're building here, and the players want to come be a part of it and take this program to the next level. So that's kind of my initial thoughts on it. But same thing to you, Greg and Michael as well. First of all, what are your kind of thoughts on the softball program? And definitely, will we see you guys any softball events here this season?
Yeah, I if I can tie in a baseball, softball, trip, I definitely will make the drive down for it. It's definitely a program that's been on the rise the last couple of years, since we brought in Coach Swift. I don't get to follow it as much as I probably should. Just because sometimes it's really hard to just find it on TV.
Right.
Now the ACC network is doing a better job of getting some of these other sports out there.
Yes.
So, but yeah, if the game is on, my wife, it drives my wife crazy. If it's on like a TV or an internet or whatever, I'll be trying to tune in, and she's like, "Come on, you just watched the game last night." I'm like, "Yeah, but that was basketball. That was baseball.
Right.
Like, no, this is totally different."
Different
So
that's right.
yeah, so I try to stay up on all the sports as much as I can, at least the headlines. Yeah, it's a team. Like I said, it's a team on the rise, though. They've had a good recruiting class. They brought in some transfers. It looks like that that will help. So I'm excited. Anytime our teams are successful, and then we're competing for championships, and then for the College Cup every year, that keeps moving up and up. So that just shows you that all of our programs are doing well. Every year, our teams are exceeding expectations. So that's awesome.
Yep. Anything to add to that, Michael?
Just that that it's great to see the recruiting's going well. That's kind of in any program. That's how you build your base. And obviously there's a lot of other factors that go into it, but you have solid recruiting classes, you'll probably eventually see that pay off on the field. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you got
And
quality coaches.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, no kidding. But definitely too, wouldn't since we've already mentioned them, one of the last sport I wanted to mention as well is volleyball. Because they've definitely have had it. There's no doubt that they always say that like Mac Brown is the champion of the off season.
Mm.
And Lucas Labe this year, but Lucas Labe this year has definitely won himself a championship in this off season because he has brought in some serious talent from the transfer portal, and also too from signees as freshmen here. Because they brought in Madison Williams, who's from the University of Texas, which is a great volleyball program. Which I mean, add a huge piece there, and then there was one other sport as well, or one other school as well. I can't remember which school.
I remember she's from Poland though. I saw that. Yeah.
Well, there was
Yeah.
one that was from the University of Hawaii, and she was from Poland. And then
Yeah,
we
there you
actually
go.
brought in a second player
Who
from the
from
University of Texas,
Texas, yeah.
Naomi Cabello. So we brought in two players from Texas. We brought in one from Ohio State, Vanja Bukilik, maybe, and then the University of Miami, Priscilla Hernandez as well. So again, a lot of players coming in, because it definitely, I think that we lost a couple of key pieces. This year, basically obviously highlighted by Melissa Evans, who was a 5-time, if I'm not mistaken, first team All ACC.
Yeah.
So definitely
Pretty
losing her
impressive.
was
Yeah.
I mean that's pretty tough. That's gonna be pretty tough to beat.
Yeah.
And then losing like Kaylee Frazier and Taylor Rowland. Taylor Rowland as well. So again, it's because again, the thing to keep in mind too with Lucas Labe is then he did just win a USA Olympic gold medal. So
Yep.
because that was one thing that Melissa and I both said was that, I mean that's pretty much going to recruit itself almost. I mean, okay, you get to come and develop under a guy who's won a U.S. Olympic gold medal, which is that's pretty great resume builder right there for any coach, much less a collegiate head coach, So
Right. Yeah.
That's a
So,
great finishing move when you're trying to recruit somebody. Be like, oh, here, let me show you this.
Yeah.
yeah. Have you seen this, by the way? I don't know if you know this or not.
Pulls it
I've
out
actually won a
from
gold
under
medal.
his shirt.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
He
I love
wears
it.
his LinkedIn profile around his neck.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Oh, I like that. That was a great
Yeah.
phrase right there, Greg.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, basically, I guess what we're getting at is I mean, obviously, there's no doubt that it's easy for us to necessarily lock in on the not necessarily negative, but like the which is with the men's basketball. But there's still so much going on good. So, but I definitely again want to can't stress enough to definitely let's not give up on this men's team. Let's continue to support them strong and see what we can do this season. And again, this team is talented enough that they could turn around whenever the ball falls right. Again, hey, we'll start off here hopefully with this Louisville game here on Wednesday night, 9:00 p.m. So make sure to tune in with us here for the watch party, and also too for our 1-year anniversary. We're going to be doing some big giveaways, which again, the details will be released tomorrow. We're going to be giving away multiple items. And then the other thing I want to say as well, which for those who are tuning in, again, make sure to also tune in with us because we're going to be doing some awesome Pac-9 previews here, episodes here with some very, very special guests. So make sure, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's free to do, and also make sure that you're notified whenever we release new content. So make sure to do that if you haven't already. But with that being said, Greg, again, it's a pleasure to have you. And I know that we've had you on a couple of times here, and definitely look forward to having you on, hopefully many more times here in the future, whenever, time calls for it, I guess.
I'm always ready, Coach. Just put me in.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And it's easy enough, right? Again, I mean, my wife always says all the time, because looking at like a Joe Gilio and a Joe Ovies, like, how do these guys talk so many hours a day about sports? I'm like, I could talk that many hours a day about NC State, that's easy stuff. Shoot, get out of here with that.
In fact, there's not enough hours in the day for me.
No, exactly. So, because again, we're just talking current events, but much less we could talk about, teams of next year's, teams of past, the story goes on and on. So
Right.
it's not that tough. But anyway, y'all. But thank you all so much again for tuning in. Really appreciate y'all, and again, y'all support of us as well. And looking forward to an awesome 2022 here. Again, I know we're still, only 9 days into the new year here, even though it seems like it's been ages since it turned
It's
2022.
been a
But
while.
anyway, so once again, make sure Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Tune in live here with us to react and discuss the game live, and look forward to having you all there. But hey, as always, stay safe and go Pack, y'all. We'll see y'all